Good morning. I'm News Center Maine's Don Kerrigan, and welcome for this Sunday morning. We are joined by our veteran analysts, Democrat Ken Altshuler, Republican Ray Richardson. Gentlemen, too bad nothing's going on in politics these days, right?
Real shame. It's been a boring summer.
No doubt.
So the big thing in Maine this past week is Paul LePage doing the official kickoff of his campaign.
I am running to be the next governor of Maine.
We knew he was going to do it. It just made it official. Had a big crowd at the Augusta Civic Center. And no surprise, really, came out very strongly slamming Janet Mills, both for reversing some of the things that he got passed when he was governor and also for handling of COVID. Ray, we know you're a passionate supporter of Paul LePage. What's the message that he's sending here?
He's very focused on the issues. I don't think the personality clashes that happened in his prior term as governor are going to be happening now. He just wants to go in and give Maine people the opportunity that he's had, and that's to live the American dream. And he was building it. You know, governors don't create jobs, let's be honest, but they can create an environment where jobs can be created. He and I agree with him completely that Governor Mills has done many things that are harmful to that effort. He wants to fix that.
And you're convinced, we did an interview the other day about this, you're convinced he's a different guy than he was just 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. He's gotten perspective. Ken, you know him. He's a good man. And I think that, all of his life, he's been a street fighter. He had to, he was homeless as a little boy, and he's always been a street fighter. I think what you have now is someone who isn't so much wanting to fight, but to fix. And I think there's a big difference, and that's given him a lot of perspective.
Well, I like Paul LePage. Very entertaining, engaging guy, very smart, very articulate. I like him personally. I don't like his politics. And I'm not sure Alepa can change his spots. Paul is bombastic. He was Donald Trump before Donald Trump. Donald Trump actually made him look a lot more rational. But I'm not sure people have the stomach for conflict. And whether or not Paul can avoid that or not, he was pretty fiery yesterday about Janet Mills. And obviously, I don't think his timing is very good. I mean, Maine has a history of electing governors for a second term, right or wrong. Joe Brennan tried to run again, didn't work, and he was a fairly popular governor. And right now you have Janet Mills, who is riding high on federal money. We have $500 million in the rainy day fund. She supports the corridor, which would have been ammunition for Paul LePage. So I think, and the COVID handling, which many Republicans think is a weakness, I think the fight over the recall of Governor Newsom in California has kind of put that to rest. I think that the voters in California said, we like that kind of control. That's California, 2-1 Democrats, I understand, but I don't think that plays well. I don't think it's going to play well in this election. I like Paul. I don't know why he's running again. I think that it's Janet's to lose. I don't think he's going to win. And I think that it takes away other viable Republican candidates who could have a different approach running against her.
Yeah, I'm going to respectfully disagree. And I think that the pandemic approach displayed her weakness as a leader. She treated Maine like a meat cleaver. She treated Van Buren like she treated Portland. No one thinks those two places are alike. And instead of being a leader, using a surgeon's scalpel and carving out a plan that made sense for all of Maine, she just basically treated Maine like it's one place, like all of Maine was Portland. We have listeners in Van Buren and Rumford and down east, and they were all saying the same thing. Why are we treated like Portland? I thought it was very poor on her part, and I think it's an Achilles heel for her.
And Ray, they're gonna vote for Paul LePage anyway. So you're not talking about the independents and the ones that sit in the middle. And that's what the Republicans said about Newsom in California. It didn't play well. Just didn't play well.
And along those lines, so actually, briefly, do you think at least part of Paul LePage's reason for running again is because Governor Mills undid some of what he did? Is that what really is driving him?
Well, I think, look, Paul LePage, like all of us right now, we love the state. We love the people of the state, and we want them to enjoy a life that maybe isn't available to a lot of people. He had Maine on the move. We were creating jobs. We had people taking risks and starting businesses. We saw incomes for families rising, something they really hadn't done in Maine in a decade and a half, and their taxes were lower. Now, we had a lot of work to do. There's no question that's true, but Mills undid a lot of what LePage had going, And I think if it weren't for the $6 billion in federal money, Maine would be in a shambles right now.
Well, that may be true, but the $6 billion that you can use to say, look what I've done. And I think Paul, with all due respect, likes the limelight. And I think he likes being in charge. That's the kind of guy he is. I will say one other thing. The real risk to Janet, I don't think it's the Republicans or Paul LePage. It's progressives who are undermining her governorship. That's a problem. And as my brother Ethan Strimling is kind of promoting that kind of thought, the Democrats have better learn how to work together and learn what the Tea Party's found and learned in the 2010, or they're going to find their leader gone because of what they're doing, not because of what Paul LePage is doing.
Let's jump into this other issue. Speaking of Governor Mills, Senate Republicans going after her again over the vaccine mandates for healthcare workers, specifically asking her in a letter to provide a testing option for people working in nursing homes. The governor has said no, she's not going to make that change. Ken, is she just being stubborn, or do you think it's the right move?
I agree with her, and I know many Republicans disagree. Government can mandate vaccinations and mask wearing. The Supreme Court upheld that in the 1930s. We have mandated vaccinations for military, 17 required vaccinations. I don't understand anybody working in healthcare who's not vaccinated. That is, to me, totally illogical. Good for her. I think most people support it. I think testing is not valid. It's not, you got to get tested. Leadership supports her.
Sorry, we had a little interruption there, Ken. Ray, what's your take?
Yeah, I completely disagree with the governor on mandates, but I understand her sentiment. People getting vaccinated, most people believe that's a good idea. The problem we're going to face, and I think we're really looking at the wrong fight here, there is a strong coalition of Mainers against medical mandates. I don't know if they're going to walk off the job or be fired. I don't know. But they have 1,600 people who have said they're going to. If that happens, Maine will be in a big, big problem. And I think a lot of the brass don't realize it or want to believe it.
The scene at the southern border this week certainly does not look good for President Biden and the Biden administration. Ken, you've got to wonder, what is their policy and why can't they seem to get control of what's happening on the southern border?
So Ray's going to love this because this is one of the issues that I've been very critical of the administration. Their handling has been terrible. The optics have been horrible. Kamala Harris, who's been in charge, the czar of it, didn't go to the southern border for 90 days. The strategy is bad. And let's not forget, one of the strongest selling points Donald Trump did in 2016 was the southern border, was immigration, was fear of the immigrants coming and ruining America as we know it. This could be the most important issue voter-wise in November of 2022. And if the Democrats and if Joe Biden doesn't get his act together, that is more vulnerable than anything else. I don't know why they don't have a strong policy. It is a complicated issue. There's no simple solution to it, but they're handling it badly, and they've got to get straight on this, and they better do it fast because that's their vulnerability in my opinion.
And if Kamala Harris wants to run for president, this is not a good indication of her strength if she's managing this, right?
Absolutely correct.
Yeah. Ray?
Yeah, no, I would agree with Ken on this. And, I do think there is a solution. Donald Trump began to create one, but let's face it, there was still a lot of work to do. The border was not in the shambles that it's in now, but it has been periodically since 1986, the last time we had real immigration reform, when Ronald Reagan gave amnesty to 3 million people, saying this is the last time we'll need to do it. We'll continue to update the immigration laws. There is a humane way to handle the border. There's a humane way to handle people who are in this country currently, but here illegally. We can do it with principle. We can do it with integrity. We have no interest in doing that because this is a demagogue issue.
In 20 seconds, each of you, Ray, you first. What should President Biden do right now? Should he truly close the border? And I don't know how you actually do that since we've had illegal immigration forever.
Well, first of all, the Mexico policy was working where people stayed in Mexico until we could process them. I think that was a very good idea. He's got to find a way to shut down the border to the extent that we can. And these are people coming here. They're not being vaccinated. 21% of them have tested for COVID. The country can't handle that. And the president is clamping down on the American citizens. This is a bizarre policy Biden has in place. I don't understand it.
I agree with Ray that the Mexican policy was actually one of the few things I think Donald Trump did correct. And a judge in Texas has basically reimposed that. That's good for Joe Biden. But I think they need to have more Border Patrol agents. I think they need to have faster processing of people who are here for safety reasons. I think it's a global effort, and I think he's got to step up efforts on enforcement and implementation.
Okay, Democrats in Congress, particularly in the House, pushing to come up with an agreement, at least among themselves, on a plan to raise taxes on corporations and people earning over $400,000 to help pay for this huge social infrastructure bill that they hope to still pass. Ken, is this going to fly?
Well, this is where we're seeing the infighting between the progressives and the moderates, because of course the progressives want the $3.5 trillion package before they agree to the $2 trillion infrastructure package, or do a budget resolution, or raise the ceiling. Tying those together, they're going to have to separate them. They're going to have to deal with keeping the government open and then deal with the debt ceiling. They're going to have to separate those two issues. There'll be a vote tomorrow on Monday. And I think at that point, it won't pass. They're going to have to separate it. But yes, the debt ceiling will be raised. That's never not been raised. Budget resolution will be in effect. Probably the $3.5 trillion figure will come down. Eventually, something will come out of it. But I think the moderates are going to have a hard time beating back the progressives, and the progressives are doing real damage to the Democratic Party.
So will the tax increase happen?
Yes, but not as much as Joe Biden has proposed. I think you'll see a compromise maybe in between. Certainly capital gains will be in between. You'll see a 1% raise on corporate tax rates. So there'll be a compromise. It won't be as much as Joe Biden wants.
And Ray, when it comes to taxes, we didn't raise taxes to pay for the all of the COVID response bills last year and earlier this year. Your party obviously will make hay against the Democrats if taxes are increased. Can they block it?
I don't know if they can block it, but I absolutely believe they should make hay with it. I don't understand how raising taxes in a recovering economy makes any sense to anybody. What the president doesn't understand, because he's never been in the private sector, is that when you put too much burden on business, too many regulations, too much taxation, all it does is stifle innovation and hiring. It's a very, very bad idea. If they would focus on how to grow the economy, you could generate tax revenue to pay for all this. They just don't believe that because they don't trust the American people.
And we know that for years there's been a push to tax the wealthy. So is this a chance to do that as well?
Well, I think that's nonsense. If you look at IRS statistics, their latest, the top 1% of income earners in this country pay 39.3% of all income taxes. The bottom 50% pay none. This is just political rhetoric. It's worn out, it's tired, and it's no way to advance the country.
It's a political strategy that worked for Democrats because most of the people who support Democrats are middle to low income people. So it plays well. I agree with Ray that it's maybe unfortunate we have progressive tax rate. There are people who don't pay their taxes, and if they paid their fair share, we wouldn't be in this situation. But I don't think it's always good to pick on the wealthy to do it. I'm a capitalist. I think you need innovation. We need a better tax system. But boy, Ray, we've been talking about that for how many decades?
All right. Winners and losers of the week. Ken, let's go to you first.
Well, I hate to say it. I think the loser of the week is Joe Biden. His numbers have gone down. He didn't handle the Afghanistan situation well, maybe as well as he could have, but he didn't. The PR part of it, he did not handle. The southern border thing he's not got a grip on. There's fighting with China. And the COVID recovery has kind of been stymied by misrepresentations, or looking like they don't know what they're talking about. So unfortunately, Joe Biden, I think this week is the loser. I think the winner of the week is Janet Mills. I think that Paula Page running against her is not necessarily a negative for her. I think there's other Republicans that would be more effective in an election against her. I think Paula Page faces the problem of history, that a governor has never gotten more than 2 terms in Maine, and a governor seeking a second term has never lost. So I give Janet Mills the winner of the week.
All right, Ray.
So my loser of the week, I'm going to agree with Ken. It's Joe Biden. He has had a disastrous month here with Afghanistan and its chaos, and now with what happened on the southern border. Also, the deal that he did with Great Britain and Australia, upsetting the French, where they pulled our ambassador. It's just been a disaster. My winners are 2, though, and I'm going to disagree with Ken on Paula Page. He's my winner. He had a resounding rally at the Augusta Civic Center. And I think that while Ken's right, no one's ever served a third term. Paul LePage has also never lost an election. My other winner, and this is more personal, is Senator Susan Collins, because she has refused to support the abortion legislation in the Congress that would try to overturn Texas. As you know, she is pro-life, but she stood up for, pro-choice, but she has stood up for the pro-life community in this regard, and I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you both very much. A lot going on. We'll be back next week, and News Center Maine will be back right after this.